Welcome back to our channel for another deep dive into the glamorous, cutthroat world of Los Angeles fashion. Today is a spectacular day to unpack the explosive drama brewing behind the polished glass doors of Forrester Creations. The atmosphere within the hallowed halls of this iconic fashion house has shifted from a sanctuary of haute couture to a suffocating battleground of bruised egos, shattered dreams, and bitter rivalries. The legacy of Eric Forrester, once built on the unbreakable foundation of familial unity and unparalleled artistic brilliance, is now being systematically dismantled by the very people entrusted to protect it. As we approach the highly anticipated Friday, May 15th episode, the tension is no longer simmering beneath the surface. It is boiling over in spectacular, destructive fashion. The corporate veneer is cracking, revealing the ugly, raw emotions of a family at absolute war with itself. This is no longer merely about hem lengths, fabric swatches, or seasonal trends. This is a brutal, unyielding war for respect, validation, and ultimate control over an empire that is rapidly losing its soul. At the epicenter of this impending corporate earthquake stands Zende Forrester Dominguez, a man who has spent years meticulously honing his craft, only to be repeatedly pushed to the margins of his own family's legacy. For weeks, Zende has been operating under the naive, hopeful assumption that his immense talent was finally being recognized by the executive team. When Steffy Forrester Finnegan abruptly paused the Hope for the Future line, she masterfully placated Zende by tossing him a coveted design role in the elite couture division. It was a calculated, manipulative stroke of corporate appeasement, specifically designed to keep him quiet and compliant while she systematically dismantled Hope Logan Spencer's creative vision. Zende, driven by his inherent loyalty and a desperate desire for his grandfather Eric's approval, swallowed the bait. He poured his heart, his soul, and his countless sleepless nights into a collection that he genuinely believed would redefine his career and solidify his place in the Forrester pantheon. However, the blinding veil of Steffy's deception is finally being ripped away in the most painful manner possible. The Friday episode promises a devastating epiphany for Zende, a moment of profound, sickening clarity where the ugly truth of his situation becomes impossible to ignore. Hope Logan Spencer had warned him repeatedly. She had seen the writing on the wall, recognizing with sharp clarity that Steffy's so-called pause was nothing more than a cowardly, passive-aggressive cancellation. Zende is now forced to confront the horrifying reality that his breathtaking hope for the future designs, the intricate sketches he agonized over, the vibrant concepts he breathed life into, are destined to rot in a dark, forgotten filing cabinet. Steffy never had any intention of resurrecting the line. The couture assignment was not a promotion. It was a gilded cage, a shiny distraction meant to blind him to the fact that his primary body of work had been callously executed by a co-CEO acting out of personal spite rather than sound business acumen. To truly understand the magnitude of Zende's impending rage, one must understand the deeply personal, almost spiritual nature of fashion design. An artist cannot simply take a collection tailored for a specific, youthful, socially conscious demographic like Hope for the Future and seamlessly transition it to another label or division. The aesthetics, the target audience, the very soul of the clothing are inherently tied to the brand identity. Zende cannot just pack up his sketches and walk them over to the couture department. His work, representing months of his life and the absolute pinnacle of his creative evolution, has been rendered utterly worthless by a single, vindictive executive decision. The profound sense of violation he feels is not just professional. It is a deep, agonizing personal betrayal that cuts to the very core of his identity as a Forrester and as an artist. He realizes he is viewed not as a visionary, but as a disposable utility. This agonizing realization culminates in an explosive, volcanic meltdown within the confines of the executive office. Zende, typically composed, respectful, and eager to please, finally shatters into a million pieces. The target of his righteous, unbridled fury is none other than Chief Operating Officer Carter Walton. Carter, a man who has spent his entire career attempting to maintain peace and operational stability within the volatile Forrester family, finds himself trapped directly in the path of a Category 5 hurricane. Zende's voice will echo through the executive suite, a raw, unfiltered outpouring of years of accumulated resentment and marginalization. He is tired of being the good soldier. He is sickened by the realization that he has been played for an absolute fool, used as a convenient pawn in Steffy's petty, childish vendetta against the Logan women. The sheer intensity of Zende's outburst is a terrifying testament to the toxic, suffocating environment Steffy has cultivated at the top of the corporate ladder. Carter Walton is forced to absorb the heavy brunt of Zende's completely justified rage, and the psychological toll on the COO is immense. As the man responsible for the day-to-day health and stability of the company, Carter can clearly see that Forrester Creations is hemorrhaging its top-tier talent. Carter is not oblivious. He is a brilliant corporate strategist who has already delivered prophetic, dire warnings to both Ridge and Steffy. He sat them down, looked them squarely in the eye, and explicitly told them that their ego-driven, emotionally charged decisions were going to have catastrophic, irreversible consequences. He warned them that alienating their star employees and treating their creative lifeblood with such profound disrespect would lead to a mass exodus. Now, as Zende furiously paces the room, shouting about the death of his collection and the blatant disrespect he has endured, Carter's absolute worst nightmares are materializing in real time. The company is fracturing at its foundation, and the executives in charge are entirely too blinded by their own arrogance to see the collapse happening right beneath their feet. The terrifying reality that Carter must confront is that Zende's meltdown is not merely a momentary lapse in professional composure. It is the blaring alarm prelude to a potential corporate defection that could permanently cripple Forrester Creations. If Zende feels completely unvalued, marginalized, and manipulated by his own flesh and blood, what is stopping him from walking out the front door and never looking back? The rival Logan brand, spearheaded by a fiercely ambitious Katie Logan Spencer and backed by the infinite, ruthless financial resources of Bill Spencer, is desperately in need of a lead designer to anchor their rapidly expanding empire. Zende crossing enemy lines would be a devastating, humiliating blow to Forrester, a public relations nightmare of epic proportions, and a massive strategic victory for the Logans. Carter knows this in his bones. He understands that Steffy's tyrannical leadership is practically gift-wrapping their best, brightest talent and handing it directly to their fiercest competitors on a silver platter. While the design studio burns with Zende's righteous fury, an equally destructive, deeply insidious emotional fire is consuming the Forrester mansion. The battle for the co-CEO position has completely transformed from a logical corporate restructuring discussion into a deeply toxic, emotionally manipulative loyalty test. Brooke Logan Forrester, a woman whose massive contributions to the company's historical success and global reach are undeniable, has rightfully demanded a seat at the head of the table. She envisions a powerful future where she and Ridge govern the empire together, presenting a unified, mature front that can restore order, respect, and profitability to the chaotic fashion house. However, her logical, business-minded proposition has been met with the most infantile, unprofessional, and staggering resistance imaginable from her stepdaughter, Steffy Forrester Finnegan. Steffy's reaction to Brooke's corporate ambition is nothing short of a profound psychological regression. Instead of presenting a cohesive, data-driven, professional argument as to why she should remain the sole co-CEO alongside her father, Steffy has resorted to the lowest form of emotional blackmail. She has twisted a critical corporate boardroom decision into a twisted, sick referendum on Ridge's paternal love. Steffy has explicitly demanded that Ridge put her first, insisting with a straight face that he must prove he loves her more than he loves his own wife. It is a staggering display of immaturity, a complete and utter abdication of professional responsibility. Steffi is operating not as a visionary leader guiding a global brand, but as a petulant, tyrannical child throwing a massive tantrum because she absolutely refuses to share her toys. She is a bully masquerading as an executive, weaponizing her familial status to crush any perceived threat to her absolute, unchecked authority. Caught directly in the crossfire of these two formidable, unyielding women is Ridge Forrester, a man whose entire existence is seemingly defined by his chronic, agonizing inability to make a definitive, difficult choice. Ridge is the ultimate waffler, a man who desperately wants to have his cake, eat it too, and somehow avoid the calories. He is terrified of alienating his fiercely demanding daughter, yet he knows deep down in his soul that Brooke's critical assessment of the situation is entirely accurate. He recognizes the immense danger of Steffi's unchecked aggression and her deeply unprofessional conduct, yet he completely lacks the foundational spine required to stand up to her and strip her of her power. Ridge's leadership style is heavily characterized by avoidance, appeasement, and a desperate desire to keep the peace at any cost. When faced with a crisis that requires a firm, unpopular executive decision, Ridge invariably folds, opting for the path of least resistance, regardless of the immense long-term damage it inflicts upon his marriage and his company. This Friday, Ridge's inherent cowardice will reach a devastating, heartbreaking crescendo. He will return to Brooke, the woman who stood by him through countless storms, the woman who genuinely believed he would finally act as a true partner and champion, and he will deliver a crushing, humiliating disappointment. Ridge has failed. He has completely and utterly caved to Steffi's emotional terrorism. He was unable, or perhaps entirely unwilling, to look his daughter in the eye and strip her of the title she is currently abusing to destroy the company's morale. He will have to confess to Brooke that her dream of standing beside him as an equal co-CEO is dead, murdered by Steffi's deep-seated insecurities and his own pathetic inability to enforce professional boundaries. The betrayal Brooke will feel in this moment cannot be overstated. It is a profound, stinging rejection of her worth, her formidable intellect, and her rightful place within the Forrester hierarchy. But Ridge, in his infinite, misguided wisdom, does not return to his devastated wife empty-handed. Knowing full well that he is about to shatter her corporate ambitions and validate her worst fears about his loyalty, he attempts to soften the blow with a gesture so remarkably tone-deaf, so staggeringly condescending, that it borders on the offensive. In Ridge's deeply flawed mind, a glittering gown should be more than enough to satisfy his wife. He fundamentally misunderstands the very nature of her ambition. He views her through an antiquated, almost insulting lens, believing that showering her with material luxury can somehow magically compensate for denying her actual, tangible, executive power. For Brooke Logan Forrester, this dress is not a gift. It is a glittering, sequined insult. It is a physical, undeniable manifestation of Ridge's absolute refusal to view her as a corporate equal. Brooke is a titan of industry. She is a woman who has successfully navigated brutal hostile takeovers, launched immensely profitable global product lines, and shaped the very fabric of the Los Angeles fashion world for decades. She does not want to be a silent mannequin draped in Ridge's creations. She wants to be the executive making the critical decisions that dictate the future of the company. When Ridge hands her that dress, he is essentially telling her to go back to her closet, look pretty for the cameras, and leave the heavy lifting of running the empire to him and his daughter. The psychological impact of this moment will be profound and irreversible. It will not pacify Brooke, it will radically radicalize her. It will solidify her painful realization that Ridge will never truly fight for her if it means upsetting Steffi's delicate ego. This devastating rejection will undoubtedly pour high-octane gasoline on the roaring fire that Hope Logan Spencer has already ignited within her mother's heart. Hope, who has been brutally marginalized, blatantly disrespected, and emotionally battered by Steffi's tyrannical reign, has finally reached her absolute breaking point. She has been passionately urging Brooke to fight, to launch a ruthless hostile takeover, to reclaim the respect and power that the Logan women are inherently owed by the Forrester family. Hope sees with crystal clarity what Ridge absolutely refuses to acknowledge. Steffy is actively, maliciously trying to erase their legacy from the company. When Brooke relays the sickening story of Ridge's pathetic, fabric-based peace offering, Hope will use it as the ultimate ammunition. She will remind her mother that the Forresters only respect raw power, and if Ridge will not freely give it to her out of love and respect, Brooke must take it by sheer, unyielding force. The stage is now perfectly, terrifyingly set for a corporate war of unprecedented, catastrophic magnitude. Steffy Forrester Finnegan, drunk on her own perceived invincibility and fueled by her father's capitulation, believes she has won the ultimate victory. She believes she has successfully beaten back the Logan threat and secured her absolute, unquestioned dominance over the company. But her victory is a dangerous illusion built on a crumbling foundation of sand and resentment. By alienating the brilliant Hope, by destroying Zen's life's work and driving him to the brink of defection, and by profoundly humiliating the formidable Brooke, Steffy has inadvertently created a powerful coalition of highly motivated, deeply resentful enemies. She is surrounded by brilliant minds who have absolutely nothing left to lose. The staggering arrogance that Steffy displays is her greatest, most fatal vulnerability. She is so hyper-focused on maintaining her shiny title that she is entirely blind to the massive mutiny brewing just outside her office door. Longtime viewers of this glamorous, dramatic saga will instantly recognize the chilling historical parallels at play here. Steffy is desperately attempting to channel the formidable spirit of her grandmother, the legendary Stephanie Forrester. Stephanie was a woman who ruled her family and her company with a legendary iron fist, often using manipulation and intense intimidation to maintain absolute control. But Stephanie, for all her glaring flaws, possessed a strategic brilliance and a deep, underlying devotion to the health and survival of the entire family unit. Steffy, in stark, depressing contrast, is merely mimicking the cruelty without possessing an ounce of the wisdom. She is a cheap, transparent imitation of a matriarch, using her power not to build an empire, but to punish her perceived enemies. She is tearing the company apart from the inside out, driven by petty, childish jealousies and a desperate, pathological need to be the sole center of the universe. Returning to the overwhelmed, tragic figure of Carter Walton, we see a man who is helplessly watching a slow-motion train wreck unfold. Carter must now desperately attempt to manage the explosive fallout of Zen's meltdown while simultaneously bracing for the inevitable, brutal retaliation from the highly motivated Logan camp. Carter is the only executive in the building acting like a seasoned professional, yet his desperate warnings are treated as mere background noise by the warring factions of the Forrester family. He is tasked with keeping the massive company afloat while the captains of the ship are actively, gleefully drilling holes in the hull. The psychological toll on Carter is immense and deeply unfair. He is a man of deep integrity, forced to constantly clean up the massive messes created by individuals who possess infinitely more privilege, but significantly less competence and emotional intelligence. How long can Carter endure this suffocating environment before he, too, reaches his